The Silk Road has been called many things: an online drug market, the first modern dark web market, even the first Amazon-like website on the dark web, in which illegal drugs were for sale at the click of a button almost anywhere in the world. The Silk Road appeared on the dark web in February of 2011. It is believed to be the brainchild of a mysterious and libertarian intellectual known as Ross Ulbricht, who evaded all attempts to track him down until a young IRS inspector of all people cracked the case. Was Ross Ulbricht truly a violent drug lord kingpin, as media and government prosecutors have portrayed him out to be? Or is he just a fall guy for whose ideas of a free and open internet and utopian libertarian world were just too much for the ever-expanding and powerful surveillance state? The truth may not only surprise you, but you may find it beyond surreal. The name Silk Road comes from a historical network of trade routes started during the Han Dynasty in 206 BC between Europe, India, China, and many other countries on the Afro-Eurasian landmass. Though silk was the major trade item exported from China, many other goods and ideas were exchanged, including religious and philosophical teachings, along with science and technology innovation like paper and gunpowder. So in addition to economic trade, the Silk Road was a route for cultural trade among the civilizations along its network. The same can be said for the modern-day Silk Road. It was not just about selling illegal drugs. Much of the initial ideas of the Silk Road were founded in the idea of an open society, in which individuals and not governments could decide what substances by a consumer's free choice they could put in their body. Ross William Ulbricht grew up in a suburb of Austin, Texas, who is the only son of Kirk and Lynn Ulbricht, who also had a daughter who was Ross's older sister. They were a typical upper-middle-class family. Ross was an avid outdoorsman and displayed an early aptitude for math. Ross also earned a full scholarship to the University of Texas at Dallas, in which he earned a degree in physics. He then earned another full scholarship to Penn State to pursue a master's in material science and engineering. It was at Penn State that Ross began a deep interest in libertarianism. After graduating, he moved back to Austin and changed his life's direction when he decided to give up pursuing a job in engineering and became an entrepreneur. His first business was a used book company called Good Wagon Books. The business floundered, and he ultimately shut it down in late 2010 in order to pursue his real dream of creating an economic simulation to give people first-hand experience of what it would be like to live in a world without the systemic use of force. From this point forward, his family and friends assumed Ross was making a living through freelance projects for startup companies, but nothing could have been further from the truth. The Silk Road was launched in February 2011 by Ross Ulbricht. In the summer of 2011, ads for the Silk Road began running on the dark web. By March 2013, the site had grown by leaps and bounds, and had 10,000 products for sale by vendors, 70% of which were drugs. At its peak, the site had 20,000 new users each month and was making $1.3 million a week. Drugs were grouped under headings such as stimulants, psychedelics, prescriptions, precursors, opioids, ecstasy, dissociatives, and steroids. The site's terms of service prohibited the sale of certain items. When the Silk Road Marketplace first began, the creator and administrators instituted terms of service that prohibited the sale of anything whose purpose was to harm or defraud. This included child pornography, stolen credit cards, assassinations, and weapons of any type. However, over time, these policies or ideals of the administrators were tested, as stolen credit cards and gun sales did begin to show up on the site. Also, fake driver's licenses were also offered for sale. There were also legal goods and services for sale, such as apparel, art, books, cigarettes, erotica, jewelry, and writing services, just to name a few. For the first time on the dark web, buyers were able to leave reviews of sellers' products on the site and in associated forums. This review system and crowdsourcing of information allowed the best sellers to rise to the top and expose scammers or those with dangerous or inferior products. This practice produced a safer, less violent experience for both buyers and sellers compared to buying drugs on a random city street corner. Most products were delivered through the mail, with the site's seller's guide instructing sellers how to vacuum seal their products to escape detection. The growth of the Silk Road correlates directly with two things. One, with the rise of Bitcoin, which underpinned the ability of consumers to purchase products on the Silk Road and keep their payments anonymous. Two, the use of the Tor browser and the deep web network to keep their traffic and browsing history anonymous. However, even in the early days, the Silk Road did not go unnoticed by law enforcement agencies such as the FBI and DEA, both of which had undercover vendors and buyers on the site trying to gather as much information as possible. Ross Ulbricht's journey from tech geek to a drug kingpin did not happen overnight. The whole time the Silk Road was online, Ross's personal life was in a constant battle with his internal struggle of keeping the Silk Road a secret from those he loved, and the ideas that shaped his philosophy on the creation of the Silk Road. On February 5, 2012, after a year of successful business, Ross announced to the Silk Road community that his new name would be Dread Pirate Roberts, or DPR for short, a namesake taken from the movie and novel The Princess Bride, and it's a name which is passed on from one noble criminal to another. Up to this point, he had just been listed as a site administrator. Over the next few months, DPR continued to post thanks to the Silk Road community for their support, along with extensive manifestos laying out his view on the Silk Road and views on politics, liberty, and free market economics.
We are like a little seed in a big jungle that has just broken the surface of the forest floor. It's a big, scary jungle with lots of dangerous creatures, each honed by evolution to survive in the hostile environment known as human society.
Wired magazine writer Andy Greenberg was the first person to actually interview Ulbricht when he was only known as Dread Pirate Roberts in August of 2013, after 8 months of speaking with DPR and trying to convince him to have his first ever interview. Andy Greenberg believes that Ulbricht was sincere in his libertarian philosophy and truly felt that an open drug market would reduce the violence that was connected to illegal drug use. In his interview with Greenberg, DPR says he was not the original creator of the site. He also stated that the main reason for the Silk Road was not about selling drugs. It was about increasing the individual's ability to buy and sell products without the state's involvement. In June 2011, the blog Gawker published an article about the site, which led to an increase in notoriety and website traffic. Shortly after that, U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer asked federal law enforcement agencies to shut it down, including the Drug Enforcement Administration and Department of Justice. The first crack in the foundation of the Silk Road was when an undercover DEA vendor by the name of Knob was able to establish a direct communication with DPR. DPR turned to one of his trusted admins known as Chronic Pain to help Knob put together a large drug buy. However, in order to facilitate the deal, Chronic Pain gave Knob his home address in Utah. Law enforcement agents quickly swarmed the address and learned that Chronic Pain was in actuality Curtis Clark Green, a 47-year-old family man. DPR did not find out about the arrest. But the following day, his closest deputy, Inigo, notified DPR that $350,000 worth of Bitcoin had been stolen from the Silk Road account, and that Curtis was the culprit. So DPR at first contacted Knob, asking if he could help get Curtis beat up. Then, soon after, asked if he could have Curtis murdered for his treacherous actions of stealing from the Silk Road. Federal agents staked a fake hit on Curtis Clark Green to convince DPR his request was carried out as ordered. There were 5 more hits apparently ordered by DPR against blackmailers and scammers. The names of 2 of the 5 victims were verified as fake, and no additional evidence has been produced of any actual deaths taking place for the other 3. The arrest of Curtis Clark Green and attempted murder provided authorities with enough evidence to issue an indictment against DPR, charging him with multiple drug offenses and a murder for hire, but they still had no idea who he actually was. In June 2013, Gary Alford, an IRS special agent, began to look into the case. He was ultimately responsible for finding the key piece of evidence to tie Ross to the actual site. What did he do that the FBI, DEA, DHS, and others had not tried after spending thousands of man-hours and millions of dollars on the case? Gary Alford performed a simple Google search and found a posting in early 2011 on a Bitcoin forum in which someone with the avatar name Altoid was talking about the idea of the Silk Road and starting a Bitcoin company, and that he needed programming help, and if anyone was interested to reach out to him, and the email listed on the online post for people to reply to was Ross Ulbricht's Gmail account. After this, Ulbricht was then visited by several DHS agents and showed evidence of numerous fake IDs caught at the Canadian border with his face on it that were en route to his apartment in San Francisco. Ulbricht denied any involvement and the agents left, but were able to verify Ulbricht was living at the San Francisco apartment. This incident did not connect Ross to DPR, but made Ross the primary subject of the investigation. On October 1, 2013, a sting was set up in which authorities began surveillance on Ross's apartment. Also, an undercover agent who was posing as a high-ranking moderator by the name of Cirrus began communicating with DPR. The next day, authorities saw Ulbricht walk to the library, and Cirrus confirmed that DPR had logged onto the Silk Road, at which time authorities rushed the library to grab Ulbricht before he could log off or encrypt the laptop. It has been claimed that Ulbricht was arrested while logged into an administrator panel of Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht, aka DPR, was arrested on October 2, 2013 in San Francisco at 3:15 p.m. at Glen Park Library. Ulbricht was indicted on charges of money laundering, computer hacking, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and attempting to have 6 people killed. Ulbricht ultimately was not prosecuted for any of the alleged murder attempts, since there was no evidence that murders actually took place. On February 4, 2015, the jury convicted Ulbricht of 7 charges, including charges of engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, and computer hacking. Then on May 29, 2015, he was sentenced. Ulbricht was given 5 sentences to be served concurrently, including 2 of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In late March 2015, a criminal complaint issued by the United States District Court led to the arrest of 2 former federal agents, Carl Mark Forrest and Sean Bridges. Both men had worked undercover in the Baltimore Silk Road investigation of Ulbricht. The agents are alleged to have kept funds that Ulbricht transferred to them in exchange for purported information about the investigation. The agents were eventually charged with wire fraud and money laundering. Then in November 2016, Ulbricht's lawyers brought forward a case on a third DEA agent, who they claimed was leaking information about the investigation and tampered with evidence to omit chat logs showing conversations with him. In addition, one of the big breaks in the case was when the FBI cybercrime unit was able to actually locate the Silk Road servers. How these hidden servers were found continues to be a matter of controversy. During the discovery phase of the case, authorities refused to provide evidence of how they were able to unmask and find the secret Silk Road servers, which is key in providing evidence of the transaction logs and payments for those running the site. Finally, they claimed that the FBI used packet sniffing technology between their laptop and the Silk Road servers, and eventually came across a consistent IP address in the output. According to the FBI, their agents entered miscellaneous data into the Silk Road login page and found its CAPTCHA, the garbled collection of letters and numbers used to filter out spam bots, was loading from an address not connected to any Tor node. The government stated that a software misconfiguration meant the CAPTCHA data was being exposed as directly coming from a data center in Iceland, which was the true location of the server hosting the Silk Road. When they put this IP address into a browser on the surface web, the Silk Road login page was displayed. However, still to this day, some tech experts do not agree with the government's statement, and no fully satisfactory answer has been given, which may suggest that Ross Ulbricht's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. Privacy researchers who have closely followed the Silk Road and worked for the Tor project say the Silk Road's CAPTCHA was hosted on the same server as the rest of the Silk Road. And that would mean all of it was accessible only through Tor's network, and its IP address could not have been discovered even with packet sniffing technology. To further muddy the waters of who was the true DPR and mastermind, several vendors and those with close ties to the site claimed that the DPR ID was not just used by Ross Ulbricht, but by at least 2 or 3 other individuals from time to time, and that there is a real possibility that one of those individuals staged the attempted murder for hire and not Ross Ulbricht. And those closest to Ross to this day continue to claim that Ross would never attempt to murder anyone, that the government just initially used the violent crimes mentioned in the indictment, which they would later drop just to color public opinion against Ross, that he was a violent drug lord. Not to mention, Ross had no computer software experience, so he alone could not have set up and run this multi-million-dollar enterprise. Ross's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, continues to fight for his release in the media and has set up a website at freeross.org for those looking to support his release and read up on compelling evidence of why those close to him believe he should be freed due to trial irregularities, including Fourth Amendment digital privacy violations, 2 corrupt federal investigators, mishandling of critical evidence, defense witnesses preventing from testifying, favorable evidence of Ross's involvement hidden from the jury, proof of multiple DPR administrators hidden from the jury, proof of evidence tampering found after trial, and evidence of NSA involvement. On November 6, 2013, Silk Road 2.0 came online, run by former admins of Silk Road. It too was also shut down, and the alleged operator was arrested on November 6, 2014 as part of the so-called Operation Animus. Following the closure of Silk Road 2.0 in November 2014, Diabolus Market renamed itself to Silk Road 3 Reloaded in order to capitalize on the brand. In January 2015, Silk Road Reloaded launched with similar listing restrictions to the original Silk Road Market. However, this website is also now offline. In November 2020, the US government seized more than $1 billion worth of Bitcoin connected to the Silk Road. However, always remember, as the old saying goes, you can take down the man, but you cannot take down the idea. So in 2021, the Silk Road is no more, but there are numerous markets that have taken its place, despite law enforcement efforts to shut them all down.
Ross Ulbricht is quoted as once saying, "One thing I learned by playing DPR is that your actions are sure to please some and infuriate others, but we can't stay silent forever. We have an important message and the world is ripe to hear it." Ross Ulbricht is now paying the price for not being silent and infuriating powerful politicians and authorities by snubbing social conventions and laws with his free market libertarian economic experiment. There is no question that drug addiction and the associated violence of the multi-billion-dollar illegal drug trade have negative impacts on both individuals and societies. But for Ross Ulbricht, the need to push back against what he saw as the unintended consequences of these policies, in which a future dystopian society controlled by governments with limitless surveillance power was not beyond surreal.
Check out the Dark Web Deacon merch store. We have high-quality t-shirts, accessories, and signature hoodies, of course. And become a true Dark Web enthusiast in VIP. And support the channel to produce a second season of Beyond Surreal. The merch store link is in the video description below. Thanks for watching, and as always, please like, subscribe, and provide comments, and turn on notifications by clicking the bell in order to check out future videos published twice a week.